There was a time when all humans were viewed as equals. That time went as quickly as it came. In the present, those who've been created are seen quite differently from those who were born. Though the circumstances of their genesis were not much unlike the rest of humanity, they were still seen as different, lesser. When the technology was new, millions were grown. Millions of innocent souls doomed to slavery for their short lives.
At the time, we thought their servitude was consensual. At the time, we thought we were doing the right thing. If we can make willing servants whose life purpose is to help their masters, is it really immoral? Can we honestly say it's a bad thing if they like helping us? The rest of us would never want for anything, and those willing youth could fill the roles none of us wanted to occupy.
A vision of perfection was created. Man thought he could have a world without scarcity, war, hate, or greed. Man thought he could live in a world where there was an answer. However, doomed as always to short-sightedness, man fell victim to his own folly. Gene editing technology was pioneered in the latter half of the 1990s. It was something that people around the world thought would forever remain part of science fiction, and yet, here it was before their very eyes. By the early 2000s, the invention had been brought practically to the table. Human servants emerged from the spawning pools by 2003, fully lab-grown and without parents or rights. After all, no one thought these poor creatures needed protection. They were engineered to be fully and enthusiastically loyal to their masters. The creators made a single fatal mistake, however. They never took away the ability to think independently. They never took away the ability to feel emotion or instinct. They never took away the pain or the humanity. In fact, the only thing missing from these tender homunculi was their ability to act of their own accord. Unable to speak or act against their masters, most were forced to endure painful torture for years until death. The corporation that originally created human servants had known exactly what they had done, but never publicly acknowledged the fact, nor allowed it to be leaked. The general public simply assumed that they were, in fact, willing servants. There was no evidence to the contrary, and as a result, no moral dilemma. As there was no moral dilemma, there were no major activist groups campaigning against or researching homunculite slavery. However, when a single scientist working alone analyzed the brain waves of his own servant, he found a disturbing pattern. He deduced that she had been severely traumatized by tests run on her, and had constantly been subject to forceful submittance of her own will. Never being able to displease her master, she was unable to disobey commands or speak on her unwillingness to be a test subject. The scientist published his findings, and more researchers performed similar experiments with harrowing results. These children were, in fact, subject to intense discomfort and trauma as a result of their subjugation. The company, however, never bothered to discredit these findings. A shift in the status quo had occurred, and few even believed the studies to begin with. Those few who did simply did not care that the children were, in reality, being tortured. There was never intended to be an expiration date for them, but it would seem that in toying with the genetics of man, the scientists inadvertently slipped in a proverbial kill code, which would cause their creations to drop dead mysteriously at around the time they reached adulthood. Throughout their lives, their death was the singular thing these servants could look forward to.